Good evening. You are watching The Punter, your one-stop shop for all the very latest odds and the best bets for the weekend. I'm Trevor Harris. Joining me this evening, Flash Gordon-Watson and Angus Loughran, Stato. Gents, how are you?
Very well, yeah. Good.
Yeah, good, yeah.
Excellent. I want to start with Manchester City, Flash, because, and in the European scenario particularly, the Champions League, desperately fortunate really to get a point against Borussia Dortmund in midweek. And they are in danger, all right, only 2 games in, but they're in danger of not qualifying again.
Yeah, they remind me a lot of Chelsea last year, and yet Chelsea went on and actually won the tournament and they drifted. Overreaction after 2 games. I think Man City are still probably good value of all the English teams to get the furthest, so I wouldn't be worried about them yet.
All right, you're not worried. What about the bookies, Nigel? Are they still thinking City will qualify or not?
It's very close, Trevor. It really is. It's about 10 to 11, even money, that kind of mark. Very, very close. It's a toss of the coin job. But what a big goal that goal was right at the last minute there. I mean, Borussia Dortmund 5 to 6 absolutely outplayed Man City, but still, Man City there at 10 to 11. They've got the fact is it's a good backable price now, City, because they've got to play Ajax back to back. 2 big games, 2 massive, massive matches. I think they will progress because they have the fixtures has been very kind to them in the next 2 years. It's a great back to lay. I think Man City at 10 to 11 will trade shorter because the fixture list has been helpful for them. But at the moment, I think the Dortmund factor may burst, but Man City are 10 to 11 to qualify.
Man City or Dortmund? Angus, is it one of the 2?
Yeah, it looks like one of the 2, but I think Dortmund should be a lot shorter than that because, I mean, you know, I know they're home and away to Real Madrid, but if they get anything out of that, City aren't sure to win in Amsterdam, I don't think. In fact, I'd be quite surprised if they pick up 6 points. 4's more likely. They might even only pick up 3. So I can understand where Nigel's coming from, but at this stage, I think Dortmund have all the aces because of the fact they've already beaten Ajax.
And City not winning, Flash, was probably one of the biggest shocks of the week in the Champions League. We know about Barcelona, Real Madrid both won comfortably. United won again. So the cream is starting to rise to the top a little bit.
Yeah, the big thing for me wasn't the result, it was the performance.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that type of performance from Dortmund. Dortmund have been struggling, obviously, in the Bundesliga. They lost a lot of their players, and they turned up, and they really put Man City to the sword. And as the butler just said, getting that last-minute goal might just be the catalyst for them to show a little bit more urgency in the remaining games.
Well, Barcelona no doubt still favourites on the outright market ahead of Real Madrid. And City, presumably, Nigel, on the drift on the outrights.
Totally on the drift. They were pre-match before the Dortmund game around about 9 to 1. They're now sort of in here around the mid-section around about 14 to 1. Not on the caption there, but it's about Barcelona and Real Madrid. They head the market. It's whether you want to take on the Spanish giants or not. I think the 2 of these sides, I think the gap between these 2 and the rest is bigger than any other gap in the competition. That's my personal feeling. I will be backing Barcelona and Real Madrid to win this event at around about 10 to 11. It's up to you. Do you want to back the front 2 at 10 to 11 or take the field on at 11 to 10? I'm with the Spanish giants all the way. I think Real Madrid, personally, my personal opinion, 7 to 2. I think the gap is bigger than anything else. I think the third place favourite, Man United, didn't play real well against Cluj. Bayern Munich got down to Barty Borisov, and Chelsea, I can't have them at all. I think it's all about the Spanish giants. I'm with them all the way at 10 to 11 to win this competition.
Yeah, Man City are 20s, by the way, same price as Juventus and Arsenal. Let's move on to the domestic scenario, Flash. Now, after last weekend's games, I came to a few conclusions. United, OK, beaten at Tottenham, or at home to Tottenham, poor in the first half, terrible in the first half, a bit better in the second. City, a little bit fortunate maybe to win at Fulham with that late goal. Arsenal lost for the first time this season. And Chelsea, when we were here a couple of weeks ago, you said, I don't think Chelsea can win the league. But they keep winning. Have you changed your mind?
No, not at all. I mean, they haven't played anyone. I mean, yes, they beat Arsenal. Yeah, but Arsenal, they struggled on 2 set pieces. Apart from that, Arsenal, for me, should have got something out of the game. But I just see that over the course of the season, with Chelsea looking to go on 3 or 4 fronts, they have not got the squad to be able to do that. So I would say that if Chelsea have contracted in price for the league, I think they're a lay.
All right. Angus, what do you reckon, Chelsea for the league or not?
Well, it's quite interesting because I think I'd wait because December's going to be the key month for Chelsea. They wanted to put the Champions League qualifying to bed before match day 6 because they've got to go across to Yokohama for the World Club Championship, and it's it's 2 weekends, so they're going to be playing catch up all the time. They've got a decent squad, but it's not injury prone up front particularly. If something happened to one of the strikers, they could be in a bit of trouble. At the moment, they're on a roll. I expect them to win again this weekend against Norwich, but. December, it's going to be a very, very big month for them. There's a lot of travelling involved. It's very hard for them to qualify in the Champions League. They were desperate to get out of the group. They haven't put that to bed yet. They could have so much done with having beaten Juventus in the first match day and given themselves a cushion, and then they could have really almost written off the last match day. They want to put that qualification to bed before match day 6. That's what they want.
Okay. Well, with United losing and obviously Chelsea beating a fellow title rival, if you like, in Arsenal, Chelsea's price must have contracted, Nigel.
Yeah, they are. They're around about 3-1 with some bookmakers, as big as 130, as short as 5-2. I agree with Flash. I think their squad up front is a big, big problem for them. They've got Torres, they've got Moses, but apart from that, have they got anybody else? Sturridge, I suppose, but they haven't got the likes of the Man City. The trouble with Man City, they're 13-8 favourites to win the Premier League. The problem with them is that they can't win the Premier League when your goalkeeper is man of the match every week. Man United 9-4 will definitely trade shorter on. Chelsea are 10-3. Man United at 9-4, definitely the bet, because they will trade shorter at some stage in the season.
Okay, nice, thank you. Relegation-wise, gents, do we know much more than we did a couple of weeks ago? I mean, QPR maybe are a surprise to some that they're still struggling. They haven't won a game yet, Flash.
Yeah, and they've got to pull it out sooner or later. I've stayed with Norwich and Swansea. I think that we've already got all the value out of them. I mean, we had one at even money. They're now heavily odds on. Swansea tipped up at 4-1. They're now below that. So we're just looking for the third member to go down, and it won't be Saints. So I'll keep looking.
What about Reading? Will it be Reading, Angus?
Well, I think they've got to be in the mix, but on the other hand, I can take a lot of encouragement out of their performance against Newcastle. They were a better side last week, and even Alan Pardew admitted that. I think they're going to win plenty of games at home, but it is about nicking results. This is a really big game for them this weekend, because Swansea, probably a good time to take on Swansea, who made that fast start and are struggling, and they'd be looking to pick something up. And to be quite honest, they'd be looking for a win, really, because that could kick-start their season, a surprise away win. We've seen it on a number of occasions, and Wigan were one of the big surprises. They seem to have got out of jail a few times, but can they keep doing it? I think they've got to be in the mix again, because I just somehow think that their season might be the time for them to drop into the drop zone.
Okay, well, you mentioned Swansea. They've lost their last 3. They haven't scored in any of them, so I guess their odds are getting shorter, Nigel.
Very short. They were 5-1 into 7-2, but even at 7-2, I think they're a bet. If they lose at the weekend, I think that price will obviously go into around about 2-1. It's a massive weekend for these. Norwich are the favourites 8-11. I don't see anything apart from Norwich going down. I think Chris Hughton has got into a side of championship players, in my opinion. Reading at 4-5. I think their home form is strong. They score goals. That will keep them up, I believe. And Southampton even money again, another team that score goals. QPR, as a QPR fan, abysmal at the weekend. One of the worst performances I've seen from a Premier League defence in 10 years. But the thing is, Harry Redknapp will be waiting in the rings. He will take them up. We'll be fine. Harry Redknapp's army, we'll be okay. Swansea 7-2, definitely a bet. They will trade shorter. Yeah,
I'm sure they will. Now, there's an interesting market we haven't covered before, I don't think. It's basically betting without the top 6, or without the big 6, however you like to look at it. The top 6, 2 Manchester clubs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool and Spurs. So Everton would be the first club that would obviously jump out at me, and they are favourites. The interesting thing is whether we can find a lesser club that might surprise us and finish in 7th place in the Premier League.
So are we looking at Newcastle, looking at Fulham, Sunderland, so it's a 4-way?
Yeah.
I think it's Newcastle, Everton, toss of a coin, really.
Yeah. Sato, would you concur?
Well, I would do. I mean, if you're looking for a complete rank outsider, I mean, you could put something like West Brom in the frame, who've done nothing. I really admire Steve Clarke. I mean, I think this is an interesting game. They play QPR at the weekend, and that's one that could go either way. But you'd certainly look for a price. But Everton and Newcastle, it should be between those two.
All right.
But there won't be any value.
20-1 West Brom. Whose favourites have Everton or Newcastle, Nigel?
Everton are clear favourites, 8-13, very, very short. Wow. Fulham 12-1. I think Sunderland 16-1, unbeaten in the Premier League. Martin O'Neill, you know what he's doing there. He's got goal scorers. I think their front 5 going forward are better than probably half the teams in the Premier League. I think they're a decent bet at 16. What a lovely each way bet. Are any bookies offering each way on this? I would love to see a nice little each way. I doubt it very much. Everton 8-13, probably arguably so. But I want to have a little match bet. I fancy Sunderland to beat Newcastle, and if I can get a big price, 2-1, 9-4, that's where I'll be going.
I just can't have Sunderland. They're so negative, and without Fletcher, no one else scores for them. We'll come to that later. Manchester City Sunderland is the first game of the weekend we're going to look at. Sunderland actually, Flash, were the only team that escaped from the Etihad last season in the league with anything. They got a point. They were 3-1 up later on as well. But from what I've seen this season, I know Man City aren't firing. We've sort of touched on that. I can't see Sunderland getting anything.
Well, the thing is, I think Man City are a lay because I think Sunderland might get something out of the game at a certain stage.
Okay.
So I think that last year they went 3-1 up, and they obviously it was 3-3, but they don't let goals in. I've got it 6 goals last year. I've got it under 2.5 this year, and if I think it's be very, very tight for long periods, and if Man City do come out of it, it'll be maybe 1-0.
Yeah, Catamol suspended, by the way, which is not good news for Sunderland.
Well, at least they'll finish with 11 men.
Yeah, that's true. That's certainly true. Fletcher, 7 goals in his last 7 Premier League games. The trouble is, will he have any chances in this match, Data?
Well, I mean, normally you'd say no, but if you watch Man City, the big question there, no clean sheets. I mean, it's incredible. True. And so, therefore, I would be very reluctant to be on the unders in this game because Sunderland could easily nick a goal, and if you're on the unders, that means that you've laid City, which is, I think, quite a dangerous. I'd like to lay the unders in this game on the basis that if Sunderland score, then you've got City running for you. All
right, we'll come to that market in a minute. I'm with Flash, actually, but we can talk about it. 2 unbeaten sides here, Nigel, but obviously City will be massive odds on in this game.
Very, very short, Trev. They're 130 on, between 3-1 and 4-1 on. I think that's far too short. As a bookmaker, what a time to take on Manchester City. What a time as the punters out there. Come and have a go. Put your 100 quid on to win 30. What a great bet to lay. I just don't think you can win Premier Leagues with your goalkeeper as a man of the match in every single game you play. You keep scoring goals, you keep letting them in. That's the big problem. I think it's haven't failed to score in 1 in 50 games at the Etihad. They will score. I think it's a dangerous game to play the under 2.5 goals in this game. And this is someone who plays it every single week. Man City 130 on, Sunderland 14-1. I wouldn't rule off that. And the draw for me 5-1. Bit of value. All
right. Well, we were talking about the over-unders, Nigel. Flash and I are going under. Stato's very keen on going over. What do the odds say?
Well, I think the trouble is it's all about the price, isn't it? You're not going to get rich by going over at 8-13. I think that's very, very short. From a betting point of view, what do I think will happen? I think there'll be over 2.5 goals. But from a punting point of view, I certainly wouldn't be touching 8-13 on that eventuality. I would be more tempted around about 5-6, that kind of race. It's very short. The bookies are expecting goals. I think you're a very brave man to go under 2.5 goals at Man City. We know they've failed to score in 1 in 50 games and they haven't kept a clean sheet. But at 8-13, a little bit too short for me.
Yeah, I just think Sunderland are just so negative and so defensive. If you offered them 0-0 now, they bite your hands off.
And that's why I was going, maybe if you're looking at Man City, they might win 1-0. But I think that the whole setup will be, we have 10 men behind the ball, they work really hard, they're so compact. And I think they might just frustrate them for long periods.
OK, well, 1 Premier League game down, 9 to go. We'll look at some of those in just a moment. You are watching The Punter, and we're talking Premier League fixtures this weekend. Chelsea-Norwich, Flash. Now, Chelsea, top of the table, 5 wins and a draw. Norwich haven't won a game yet. Should be simple, shouldn't it?
Yeah, you can't go anything other than a home win. I mean, Chelsea will be looking to maybe look at this on paper and think maybe the likes of Moses, some of the other boys that haven't played many games, it's a great opportunity to get them without actually dropping any points. So I can't go against Chelsea.
All right. What do we reckon, Nigel, here? Because I was looking at a stat. The last 163 games Chelsea have played at the Bridge, they've lost just 9. I mean, they don't come unstuck in West London very often, do they?
No. They certainly don't. And when you look at the 9, it's probably against Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, the top teams. They don't beat. These minnows don't do a number on them. The thing is, for me, the interesting fact here is Chelsea are 1-4 to win this game and 14-1 Norwich. It's around about the same kind of price as Manchester City against Sunderland. I tell you what, this game's a much easier fixture than Man City Sunderland. I can't believe the bookies' prices. One of them is wrong. I don't think this price is wrong. I think 1-4 is a decent bet. I think they will win comfortably. I think they've been 3, 4, 5 big scores. Very easy afternoon for Chelsea. I think that the Sunderland game is where it's wrong. But 14-1 Norwich, if you fancy an upset, 11-2 to draw. It's not going to happen. Chelsea are going to win. I think your better option is to back Chelsea to win to 0 and around about sort of 2-5, 4-9, that kind of price. If you've got to take Chelsea, want to go with Chelsea this weekend.
As a punter, Angus, do you play at prices like 4s on?
No.
Never?
No.
Why not?
Perhaps that's just me personally. I mean, I suppose if you think it's 10 on, and I do know 1 or 2 punters who, if they think it's 10 on, they will bet 4 on, and I understand that, but that's not now. The only time I play at 4 on is if I put them in with something else in a treble to help it up. I have been guilty of that in the past.
Put it this way: if Flash is having a 100-metre race with Usain Bolt, and I'm offering you 10s on, would you ever punt?
On who?
He's in all sorts of trouble if he has to pick.
Let's go to our resident sprinter then anyway, and we'll talk about Swansea versus Reading. You've been keen on Swansea going down for a while, despite their good start.
Yeah.
Interesting comments from Noel Hunt at Reading saying they've got to go direct in this game against Swansea because that's when they're at their best. And he's probably right. I find this a fiendishly hard game to try and pick a winner.
It is, and that means you've got to bring the draw into play. I mean, I expect that Reading can get something out of the game. If they go and win it, then good luck to them, and they'll obviously deserve it. But the prototype's already there. Villa have showed how to play against them. So did Everton. Everton put them to the sword massively.
They did.
So I think Swansea's a lay, and I think it'll be a draw.
It looks a bit drawy this night, isn't it? This one, I think.
I totally agree. I hate to agree with Flash, but I have to agree with him on this occasion. I think Swansea at 21-20 are an absolute fantastic lay. They're a team in turmoil at the moment. The manager, Michael Laudrup, was being backed at 25-1 to be the first manager to lose his job yesterday into 16-1. The pressure is starting to count there. The style of play isn't there anymore. The players, they're going to far shores. I think the draw 5-2, great price. Reading 16-5. Reading will score. They've already scored 2 goals at Chelsea. They will score, and I think they will score equal amount of goals as Swansea, and the draw 5-2 for me.
It's difficult, isn't it, Angus, when you're on as bad a roll as Swansea are, to snap out of it. And it's still early in the season. If they lose a couple more, confidence is going to be even more at rock bottom.
Well, absolutely. And that's the only reason, in a way, why I might go against the draw here, because I could see both sides trying to win this.
Yeah.
I mean, and it might be a more adventurous game than perhaps we think. I mean, Reading need a win from somewhere, and they're not going to get many better opportunities to pick up 3 points away from home than taking on an out-of-form Swansea. But yet, Swansea, they've lost their form recently, but over the last few years, they've been hard to beat down at the Liberty Stadium. And if Reading don't turn up, Swansea have shown that they're more than capable of knocking sides over. In fact, it's a great chance for them to bounce back to form. So, it's one where perhaps Reading would be happier with the draw than Swansea, but both will be looking to win this game.
Yeah, it's fiendishly difficult. West Brom, QPR, we might disagree on this, Flash. I know you've got a sneaky feeling for Rangers, but they've got big injury problems. Ferdinand, Basingwa, Fabio Traore all out. They're rock bottom. West Brom are decent at the
Well, they're not negatives because they've been defending like fish up trees. I mean, I'd be happy if they don't play again this season if I was a QPR fan. And there's a couple more you could add to that who are actually fit and are probably going to play. But they've got to turn up and they've got to deliver. Now, the thing is with West Brom, they've not let a goal in all season. And this is the type of thing you look at it blind and go, West Brom, 3 home games, 3 wins, not let a goal in. QPR away win, because that's the way the Premier League goes. QPR have got a real opportunity to get themselves on the board, and if they don't do it soon, Mark Hughes will be gone. So they've all got to stick together. And I've put my head on the block, and I've gone for QPR away at West Brom.
It's a bold tip. If Mark Hughes is watching, give Flash a job on the coaching staff. What do the prices say here, Nigel?
Well, listen, I'm a QPR fan. It's very hard to me to sit and talk about this in the turmoil they're in. They're absolutely dreadful last week against West Ham. They need a performance. If you price this game up at the start of the season, what price would you be in West Ham? If it was the first game of the season, you'd probably be about 13-8, 6-4. They're 10-11. Now, we know QPR having a good start. We know West Brom are fantastic at home, haven't conceded, won every game to 0. But bigger than 3-1, QPR could be a bit of value here. I agree with Flash. 12-5 the draw. I remember QPR having a bad start last season and going to Everton at a similar time with Everton and won 1-0. No one expected them to do that. 16-5 QPR could be a bit of value, but West Brom definitely the ones that the bookies won't beat at the weekend.
All right, I want to move on to Wigan versus Everton. Everton second, of course, Angus. Just 3 points behind Chelsea. Wigan haven't won in 4. But again, it's one of those matches where you wouldn't really be surprised what the eventual outcome is, home, away or draw.
No, I always think if you can get over 3-1 or 3-1 over any home team in the Premiership against not the Big Four, you've got to actually look at it and think this is worth serious consideration.
Yep.
And Wigan fans will be thinking, well, over the years, but I think that's almost that price is almost a testament to how Everton have improved this season. Normally, we don't see them cited till Christmas, and then there's all the talk of a late run from David Moyes' side. They're always the strongest finishers. Their record in the second half of the last of the Premiership in the last 5 years is second to none. But this year, they've done something different. They've started well. There is genuine belief at Everton. The last time they started like this, they actually got into the qualification for the Champions League spot. So if they've got any aspirations of that, they've got to be picking up 3 points at Wigan.
All right, the good news for Wigan is Jordi Gomez's red card last week has been rescinded, so he can play in this game. Is 3-1 kind of generally available, Butler?
It is generally valuable. You can get bigger than 3-1. About 16-5 is the best price you can get. I think Everton here, even money, is too short. I think they're the form horse. The trouble is when you're opposing Everton, they go away from places like this and they're winning. Everyone goes back to their home form, but when they went to Swansea, done a number on it. It's a similar kind of task. But even money is a big overreaction by the bookmakers here. The draw 12-5, I agree with Angus. I think if you get bigger than 3-1, any team at home, and they're not playing Manchester United, Man City, or Arsenal, or maybe even Chelsea, you've got to be involved. And I think 16-5 is too big. Wigan have done well at home all through last season. They're starting off again, so 16-5, Wigan, too big.
Well, I would imagine another home team that will be a big price at the weekend is West Ham United, who are at home to Arsenal. They won't be as big as 16-5, though, or will they, Nigel?
Not far off, Trev. They're around about 3-1. 16-5, exactly the best price you can get. Again, I think here team news is vital if you want to bet West Ham. If you see the name Andy Carroll on the starting sheet, you've got to back him. He will be a major threat. We know how dodgy Arsenal were at the back last week. Loughran's got a free header. Torres at the far post. They are in trouble with corners, set pieces. West Ham were massive consideration if Andy Carroll plays. If he doesn't play, and it's Vazte and Carlton Cole, then Arsenal even money. But team news is vital for your bets on this one.
Yeah, I entirely agree. Carroll's given Arsenal problems the last few seasons. He's played against them for whoever he's been with. Newcastle, Liverpool, and now West Ham, of course. What price is he to score at any time?
Well, to score any time, it's a big price, I think. 10-3, bigger than 3-1, between 3-1 and 7-2. I think it's a decent bet. I mean, he's the second favourite behind Cole there. If he plays, obviously that will come in. This is people are thinking he might be on the bench. Podolski heads to this at 11-5. Gervinho 9-4. I know he's scoring goals, but Trev, I couldn't back him with your money at 9-4. No. Cazorla needs a goal, 130. Giroud is around about a similar price. Cole, main threat 11-4. I think that's wrong. If Andy Carroll plays, I think he will score.
Yeah, Gervinho's one of those players who never seems to have the ball under control, but somehow, occasionally does something with it. I've not been convinced by Arsenal going forward. I think they've improved defensively a little bit. They haven't got what I consider an absolute class striker who's going to get you 25 goals.
No, I mean, I think that's a fair comment. I mean, only the jury's out on that, and we won't see until the end of the season. But for me, Arsenal even money. I think this will be an out-and-out football match, and Arsenal will play triangles all over the park, and I can see them maybe scoring maybe 3 or 4. So I think that Arsenal are massive at even money. OK. Let's
change pace. We're going to move to motor racing, Formula 1. Let's show you, first of all, how things stand, because this has narrowed significantly in the last few weeks. The lead of Fernando Alonso is down to, 29 points now from Vettel. Kimi Räikkönen's just a little bit further back. At one stage, Alonso was way clear. He's obviously still going to be favourite for the title, but I'm not sure I want to back him, Angus, with any real confidence.
No, especially as Vettel seems to have got some momentum, gone well again in practice for this weekend's Grand Prix, and another win, and it's game on. And I think they want it to go to the last game, the last race. They're desperate for there to still be some interest in it, and I think Vettel would have to be the value. All
right, so let's talk about the Japanese Grand Prix, which is coming up on Sunday. Any thoughts on this? Because you found us the winner in Singapore, Flash, didn't you?
Yeah, you've got to stay with Red Bull again. They've got new upgrades. They like them. They've got good form around this track, but I would say the value might be with Vettel and Webber, but more value with Webber. He's the forgotten man of Red Bull. I think Red Bull will win the Constructors, and I think that this gap will close. So I'd be a layer of Alonso, and I'd maybe couple up Vettel and Webber. OK, Webber and Hamilton were joint for first and second fastest in second practice, Nigel. Where are they in the market here? Yeah, I mean, it's a very competitive race. 9-4 Hamilton. I think Hamilton's worth taking on. I really do. If Vettel 4-1, I think that's a decent bet, especially if you can get each way. I think that's a fantastic each way bet. Alonso 10-1. He's just stuttering across the finishing line. Is he going to win the championship? If he does, he's going to get it on 3rd, 4th, 5th. He's not going to win many races. Vettel 4-1. Definitely a bet. Definitely each way bet. OK, and of course, you can also bet outright on the championship itself, and also on the Constructors' Championship, which is there's 36 points between Red Bull and McLaren. We're going to talk more football and some golf when we come back. Don't go away. You are watching The Punter, and we're going to reflect for a moment on the drama and the magnificence of the Ryder Cup, but in a kind of betting perspective. And Angus, well, that final day, no one gave the Europeans a prayer at 10-6 down. I would imagine a lot of people did their money back in the Americans at very short prices, and a few shrewdies would have made some money back in Europe.
Yeah, but more of the shrewdies lost their money on the tie. And I'll tell you, Tiger Woods has been the curse of the bookmakers since he turned professional in 1996. He's won 14 majors and he's taken them to the cleaners for thousands and thousands of pounds. But that's nothing compared with what he cost them when he missed that putt on the last hole and then conceded Molinari a very easy putt. In comparison, a very tricky putt that would have stopped the tie. It should have been a tie, that, and that, in a way, that would have been a fitting result to an unbelievable day of drama. I mean, you just look who won. Paul Lawrie was given absolutely no chance in his match against Brandt Snedeker, and he won 5 and 3. There was a roller coaster of emotion, and it showed how in-running gambling has just soared. And it was a big day. Narrow
victory in the end, of course, so dramatically, Nigel, for Europe. But at the end of the 3 days, were the bookies up or were they down?
I think they probably slightly up, but the difference of being massively up and slightly up was huge. I mean, I've worked in the betting business for a long time. I've been the PR manager for many major bookmakers. I think they're being very conservative with the figures that putt actually cost. I reckon, industry-wise, in the UK, I reckon it could be 30, 40 million pounds. That's what I believe. Whether that's coming out of the hierarchy of the betting companies in this country, I'm not so sure. I think the thing is about it, it wasn't a turnaround as proportionally we've seen in tennis matches or football matches where teams have been 3-0 down and they've been 100-1 on. But for drama and sporting drama, the momentum gathered by it, I think that tie would have been a massive, massive result for bookmakers. We sat here for the last sort of 3 months talking about the Ryder Cup, and we were saying the tie was a perfect result. You lay massive money on Europe, you lay massive money on America, and you sit and hope and pray it's a tie. And it all to go in the style it did was catastrophic for bookmakers, and I think they're being cautious with the amounts of figures coming out from the bookmaking industry.
What did you make of it, Flash? Because when we did our preview, you were quite sweet on the Americans. They'd win by a margin, and of course at one stage after 2 days it looked like 17-11 was the kind of result.
Exactly. I mean, come Saturday night I felt like Nostradamus because I'd tipped up here it'd be 10-6 on Saturday night. Bradley would be the top rookie, and I thought 17-11. It went from 25-1 down to 11-2 favourite for the price. I know friends that actually got into America around the even money. They laid them back at around 1-8, and what they did is on the downside of America still getting beat, their winnings, they invested in the tie. So it was one of them where right down to the very, very last part and the shaking of the hand, they were in the money and ended up with nothing.
Already looking forward to 2 years' time at Glen Eagles. Moving back to the football, and your team Southampton against Fulham. Problem for Saints, they score a lot of goals, but they've let 18 goals in 6 games, and that's been their undoing. They've got to stop leaking goals.
Well, they have, unless you score more than the opposition. And I think at home this year, it's like I say, you never ever go against Fulham at the Cottage. I know they got beat last week, but again the value was still with Fulham. It's the same as Southampton. You want to go against Southampton at St Mary's when they go forward in numbers, they've got goals from everywhere, then you will go to the poorhouse. I think Southampton, and then people, as the season gets on, they'll get shorter and shorter at home. And Fulham, it's got it home win. Southampton home win.
Yeah, I mean Fulham aren't great on their travels, Nigel, are they? And no Berbatov again. So maybe Saints are the bet here.
I think they are a decent bet. I think they're 9-5, a little around about 2-1, that kind of price. I think that's too big. I think Fulham, we know they have their troubles on the road. They went to Wigan and won. Southampton done a number on Villa, and I think Fulham probably slightly a little bit above Villa, but not much in it. But you can get 9-5. Southampton, I think it's a fantastic bet. I think most punters will be backing both teams to score. I think that's a tremendous wager in this game. I expect lots of goals, but I think Southampton will score one of Fulham, and we know they have their troubles on the road. 7-4 Fulham, 12-5 the draw, but 9-5 Southampton, far too big in my opinion.
Well, this game looks a bit drawy to me, Nigel, and if you want to play draw or draw on the half-time, full-time, it's probably about a 4-1 shot. It usually is. Or you can play, one of my other favourite bets is going home draw or away draw, and that's always or usually a double-figure price.
Well, if you are going to play the draw and you're going to go for draw, that's a 5-1 shot. I personally disagree. I think Southampton will be strong. Southampton a 15-4 shot. But for me, the value's here. Fulham half-time, Southampton full-time. Southampton were 1-0 down last time out against Aston Villa. They come back and won 4-1. There's goals in the game. Both teams can score. Fulham half-time, Southampton full-time. They're very tasty. 35-1 is where I'll be heading.
See, I think, Stato, Fulham are kind of like punters' pals, because we know generally very strong at home, pretty poor away. You usually know what you're going to get with the Cottagers.
Yeah, and away wins are very rare for Fulham, so you're right. I mean, I think Southampton should be a shorter price than they are. I agree, I think there will be goals, and I would expect a high-scoring game with a 3-2, 2-1 maybe. A conservative home win for the Saints.
OK. I want to move on to Liverpool versus Stoke. I think it was Henry Ford that said that history is bunk, but he'd never heard this stat. In their 150-year history, Stoke have never, ever won at Liverpool. Do you see that changing at the weekend, Flash?
I just don't think you can trust Liverpool at the moment because they went away last week and scored 5 good goals. But it depends. There really are. If they get into scoring in the first 15 minutes, they can roll anyone over because confidence just builds. But they get frustrated very easily. And if there's one side that will frustrate you, it's Stoke. So I've got this down as a draw. I think that Stoke can get something out of the game. Whether they can go and win it, I doubt. But I think this will be a draw. I think it might have been, was it 0-0 last year as well? I think it's 0-0, 1-1. I'd go with that again. What
have you made of Liverpool this season, Stato? Because there is a school of thought that have actually played in some games reasonably well, but just not got the results to show for it.
They've been unlucky in the way that the fixtures and the cards were dealt, and I didn't think they played particularly well in the first game against West Brom.
Yeah.
But then they put up an excellent performance against Manchester City at home, but to have then following Manchester United and Arsenal at home, it wasn't great in the way that the fixtures were dealt. Last weekend was such a big result for them, and in fairness, Suarez got his second hat-trick at Carrow Road, and it was an excellent Liverpool win against a poor Norwich side. I think the most significant thing to take out of the whole season is the first time that Brendan Rodgers has used a word like lazy when they gave away their lead against Udinese in the Europa League on Thursday night. Now, I think there's a really good bet in this match on Sunday.
Okay.
I actually think that this is going to be a very tight and frustrating first half for Liverpool, and it could easily be a 0-0, but I expect them to go on and win the game. And I think this is a classic, around about 7-2, 4-1, on draw at half-time, Liverpool at full-time.
Okay.
And I really fancy that strongly.
Now, I've got a bone to pick with you, Butler, because every time we've done the punter this season, virtually every time, you've had a little dig at Luis Suarez. He doesn't score, he has loads of shots but can't hit the target. Not just that hat-trick, I think he's got about, I think it's 10 in the last 13 Premier League games. He's a class act, and you wouldn't say no to having him at Loftus Road.
I certainly wouldn't say no to having Loftus Road, but the trouble is he's done it against Norwich. He's going to get a tough order against Shawcross and them Stoke defenders. I don't fancy him to score at all against Stoke. I think this is the kind of game that Liverpool always failed to deliver last season. They were the bookmakers' saviours. The profit margins come out was because of Liverpool last season. Ladbrokes, William Mills, Corals, it was all to do with this team. You lot back in Liverpool. That's why they got the money. That's why you've done your money. 8-15 is too short. It's far too short. We know what to expect. Luis Suarez will not get a kick. Don't worry about that. He's going to get kicked in the stand. There's a difference of going to Norwich with them power the puff defenders. Stoke will be on him like a rash. 7-1 Stoke, too big. 130 to draw, too big. 8-15 Liverpool. Come and have a go again. The bookies are saying, come on, back Liverpool. Under 2.5 goals is a great bet. 8-15 is too short.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I laid them against Udinese. They were a similar price, and I'll probably lay them again. Spurs versus Aston Villa. Tottenham, suddenly 3 wins in a row. They're up to, I think it's 5th in the table. Villa have only won 1 of their 6 games, Flash. There's still a lot of work to do at Aston Villa. I think Spurs look a decent bet. I know they've struggled at home in some games, but I quite fancy them.
Again, this does look like you've got to ask for Villa, are they going to come out and have a go at you? And obviously that leaves a space for the way the Tottenham want to play. And you look at Tottenham, I think they're like 4-9, 2-1 on.
Yeah.
You've got to lay them because I think at some stage Villa are the type of side that will go there. I think Bent will definitely have to play. He scores goals. Like Bonlahor looks a little bit better. He's starting to get the way that he wants them to play. Last week I think the manager's got to take one on the chin and he messed up with his team selection. He got a bit carried away with because remember this side went and scored 4 at the Etihad less than 10 days ago. So for me, I've got it down as being a draw. Spurs, Villa, but a lay of Tottenham.
Well, Bent won't be short of motivation, will he, Angus? I think, what did Harry say when he was at Tottenham? His mother would have scored one of the chances that Bent missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've been to a few of these games over the years, and funnily enough, there have been a few more scoreless draws than you think. And it could easily be a tight game, and I'm going to go with Flash on this. I think the draw's the value. I just think Spurs are far too short. I really, you're looking at the price, you'd want a bit bigger if you wanted about Tottenham.
All right, well, so 2 draws and a home win from the panel here. What say you, Nigel?
Well, the thing is, when you have the likes of Stato and you have the likes of Flash on there, you're getting first-rate opinion. I tell you what, everything the guys have said, I totally agree. I think Tottenham are far too short. I can remember them going last season playing Wolves, getting beat. They've struggled against West Brom. They struggled against Norwich at home. Anyone back in Tottenham at home at 8-15. Head examining. The trouble is, the draw, Aston Villa 15-2. They're not good. Aston Villa aren't very good, but they raise their game for these 1 matches. I think with Tottenham, you want to back against the big sides. They can pull off a shot. They can go to Chelsea and put a result. They can beat the big teams at home. It's a first way to the betting poorhouse, backing them at odds on. 8-15 is too short. Draw all the way. 130. I fancy a score draw. I think 1-1, 2-2 is a decent bet, but I've got to take them on this price. I'm not saying that they won't win. Tottenham fans, don't be giving me any abuse, but at 8-15. There's a price and a price. Too short, Tottenham.
All right, that's one opinion, and you're certainly entitled to it. 5th in the table, Tottenham. What is the summit of their expectations? Can they get up to 2nd or 3rd?
I think they can. I think they get 3rd, maybe. I mean, and that's only if Arsenal really drop off, because I've got Arsenal being 3rd. But the big thing with Tottenham, they've got to go and play with complete freedom, and we have seen that in a few of the games, because teams have left themselves or paid them too much respect, as Reading did. But he's got to ditch his own philosophies and go with the way that Tottenham play, because when Tottenham play, they are frighteningly good, and on any given day they can beat anybody. They
can, Angus, can't they? But they can also put in an absolute stinker. They are a frustrating team for punters to follow.
Very much so. I mean, you've got a couple. We've got another game to look at as well, and there's another team who come under that category. But Tottenham, over the years, incredibly frustrating. On the day, absolutely outstanding. I mean, we saw last week in one match exactly what Tottenham Hotspur Football Club are all about. Yeah. I mean, they took their chances, and in fairness, there was a bit of previous in that game as well. And in the end, they were so relieved to finally end that win at Old Trafford in the league with a heroic 3-2 win. Yeah,
it was a fantastic game as well. Still plenty to come, including Newcastle versus United and England's game next Friday and the Arc De Triomphe. Don't go away. You're watching The Punter, and we have one final game to look at in the Premier League, at least at the weekend. It is Newcastle United against Manchester United. Newcastle are a big price for a home side, and I think we're kind of as one in thinking they're a bit of value.
Well, they are. They're a massive value because they are one of the sides that are knocking on the top 4 position. And when you've got a team like Newcastle, they can score goals. So you cannot have Manchester United disarray. They can't keep clean sheets. So which Man United is going to turn up? So it's either a lay Man United or you bet Newcastle at 3-1. So you could almost do both. You could lay Man United, go 3-1 at Newcastle, and you've still got a draw running for you as well. But as any result is possible, but the value is definitely 3-1 Newcastle.
And Newcastle thumped them 3-0 last season, didn't they, Angus?
Yeah, it was an amazing match. It was actually the one game in which United were completely and utterly outclassed, and it kick-started their season, of course. It came at a bad time. They did the Blackburn game as well. They'd lost back-to-back games. Could happen again here. That's the interesting thing with the Spurs home defeat, and now a trip up to Newcastle. They beat them in the Capital One Cup the other day, but I don't really take too much into that result. I think St James's will be rocking, especially after Newcastle. Their European team had a good win against Bordeaux. I expect it to be rocking. The history of this game always suggests goals, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see plenty of them.
Yeah, I know that you don't like agreeing with all 3 of us, Nigel, but I think you might also have to concur that there's some value on the Geordies here.
I absolutely despise agreeing with you guys. I tell you what, you spoke some sense this week for once, all 3 of you. I mean, unbelievable. I think the thing is, Newcastle, you've got to be about it. 3-1, we say 130 some bookmakers have gone. This is a Newcastle side at home. Demba Ba is scoring again. Cissé's on fire. Ben Arthur's being man of the match in every game he plays. Manchester United are in complete disarray. The centre-half's all over the place. Fernand and Evans might not even play. I mean, that's probably a good thing for him. Walton's going to come in. Odds on Manchester United at home. That is far too short. 19-20, around about even money. Some bookies are going towards 10-11. Crazy prices. The draw 14-5. Newcastle got goals in him. Manchester United can't defend, and last season 3-0. This is their big game of the season. They look at the Sunderland fixture and they look at this fixture. And at home, rocking crowd. I know everyone says, oh, they raise their game for this game, but they do. And 130 is an injustice to Newcastle. There are only one option in the game, Newcastle and Man United.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I heard Ron Atkinson saying that the performance against Cluj in the week was very professional. I thought they were really average. They won the game, but who did they beat? The one positive, though, the Rooney-Van Persie partnership up front looks to be gelling, and I would presume those 2 will start in this game.
Yeah, and if they do, then they're going to have a threat in the final third. But that's no good if you've got a chocolate fireguard for a defence, because they just cannot keep clean sheets. And Cluj are Mickey Mouse, and they went 1-0 up again. Newcastle go 1-0 up. They'll go looking for 2, 3 and 4.
Who do you blame for this chocolate fireguard? Evans or Ferdinand or the fullbacks or the keeper? Who?
Yeah, lack of continuity, really. I think they've obviously changed the keeper after 3 or 4 games. I don't think Rio's been fit. I think he's got by on experience and experience alone. He's had Evra or Butner at left back. He's had Raphael or another. He's even had Valencia at right back. Yeah. I just don't think that they are kicking on from the back. And also, you've got to look at the midfielders. You play Carrick and Scholes. The mobility there is almost naught. and the pace is less than.
You're almost relying on the likes of Nani and Valencia to create something for Van Persie or Rooney.
Yeah, you're looking to score a minimum of 3 goals a game to get yourself 3 points.
All right, well, we're quite sweet on the overs here, Nigel, in this game, and I would imagine that going over 2.5 will be a pretty popular bet on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it would be. And I think it's going to be that everyone's accuracy. I think both teams to score will be very popular. But I think over 2.5 goals, I think it's a bit of value at 4 to 5. I'm expecting it to be around about 8 to 13, like games we've previewed already. Under 2.5 goals, 6 to 5. I don't see any Newcastle game where you want to be going unders. I think they've got so many goals in them, and this Manchester United defence is vulnerable. The goalkeeper's at risk, the defence are dodgy. There's goals galore, and they've got goals in them. Van Persie, as we say, and Rooney. I think over 2.5 goals has to be about 5 to 4, and even over 3.5 goals at 7 to 4. Over 1.5 goals, I think that's a shoe-in. All the bookies will be taking it. Happy to take the 4 to 1 on, but it's 4 to 1 on for a reason because it's going to happen. Over 3.5 goals, maybe a little bit of value at 7 to 4. But personally, my only bet is the 130 Newcastle to win the match.
Well, that game on Sunday afternoon will share top billing with the Arc De Triomphe in terms of televised sport. The story of the Arc, Angus, really, in the last week or so, the horses that aren't running rather than the horses that are. Snow Fairy's out, Daydream's out, Nathaniel's out, and Camelot, who many thought was kind of only entered as an afterthought, suddenly emerging as a second favourite with a real chance.
Absolutely, 2 stories in one, really. The horses that aren't there, plus the Frankie Dettori riding for Aidan O'Brien.
Because his son can't make the weight.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't make the weight, and obviously he was the jockey who was on him when he failed to win the Triple Crown in the Doncaster St Ledger last month. Camelot's a very interesting contender for the Arc. Frankie rides the Arc well. You've got to remember, this is a horse that won the Guineas and the Derby, so it's certainly no problem with the distance. It's got a reasonable draw. There's a Japanese contender, but that's been badly drawn, and the draw does have a big effect in an 18-runner event.
Yeah, I mean, Camelot was the second favourite, but I think Nigel now is the favourite.
Lots of non-runners make it the favourite. The Frankie factors come out and play, but I think it's a favourite worth taking on. I think Camelot is a decent lay at 3 to 1. I think the Japanese are is it Orfrey? Is that how you spell it? Orfrey? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but I know how to write it down if it's
Orfevre, I think.
Orfevre. I think that's a good each way bet. I mean, the form obviously in Japan. I think the Japanese will be backing it off the boards. The Paramutual is going to be very, very short. The French tote. So if you're going to back this horse, take the price. I think it's a great each way race. I look at Great Heavens each way. St Nicholas Abbey even at an each way. Obviously from the same stable at Camelot. I think looking at the market, see where the Ballydoyle money goes. Does it go on the favourite? Does it go on St Nicholas Abbey each way? I think it's a very interesting. Even Yellow and Green at 33 to 1 could be an each way race. I think as a bookmaker, you definitely want to take on the front 2 and get a shock result. And I think it could happen.
What do you make of Orfevre? Because I mean, he ran really well in the Pre-Foy, and 4 to 1 kind of catches my eye a little bit. I know Camelot obviously is a massive danger, but at 4s I might take a chance.
I think it's the draw, and that's the only thing that would put me off. You can't really win the draw from being so high, and that would put me off massively.
And what about potential outsiders that you think are worth a punt?
Nigel mentioned Yellow and Green. That is an interesting one for me because it was well touted out before the Vermeer and finished 4th. Charetta is 8 to 1. Masterstroke, Andre Farb. You can never count Andre Farb out in the Arc. Masterstroke and Meander, those would be the 2. But that Yellow and Green at 33, that's where my cash is.
All right, was always entertaining, the Arc De Triomphe. That's on Sunday afternoon, of course. Finally, we're going to talk about some more, some more football. On Friday, England are back in World Cup qualifying action at home to the might of San Marino. Now, Angus, what is a punter's betting strategy in a game that's likely to be very one-sided? You can't back England, they'll be 1 to whatever. We'll hear from Nigel in a minute. So what are you looking at? Margin? Are you looking at handicaps? Are you looking at correct scores? How do you go about it?
I think the handicaps will come into it, every time with the first goal. My memory goes back to a match in November 1993 when San Marino played England.
I remember
the man, I can still remember his name to this day, Galtieri, got the opening goal inside a minute.
And 7 seconds, wasn't it?
Well, it was unbelievable. Yeah. And it was England were already out of the World Cup. We'd lost to Holland, and everyone was depressed, and then go there and go a goal down inside a minute. I can't see the same happening at Wembley. We're just privately debating what do you think the handicap will going to be, but I think England will be disappointed if they don't get at least 4 goals in this match.
Yeah, okay.
So you've got to really look for the handicap. England to win to 0. It's when they declare. Remember, they have got a big game the following week, so they'll be perhaps thinking about that as well.
Yeah, they're still considering the handicap, the bookmakers. I'm just curious, when you were a player, Flash, being an ex-pro, when you played, let's say you played a very lowly team in the FA Cup or something, Was it difficult to motivate yourself for what was probably going to be a one-sided fixture?
No, because that's the problem. There's the problem that happens with giant killers when you go there and you underestimate. For me as a striker, it was an opportunity to go and score goals. So, and again, you get a bit of momentum and you can make sure you play. And the big thing is, if you lower yourself down to their level, obviously it becomes a level playing field. If you play to your level, then they can't get near you. So you stamp your authority on it straight away. And also, if you score early, a little bit like Liverpool and Norwich last week, they scored it after 2 minutes. Norwich are never going to get back to Liverpool's standard. So it's making sure you start right.
All right. Well, I'm kind of guessing England are about 1 to 66. Let's see what price they actually are with Nigel.
I think you'll be backing at 1 to 66. 1 to 100, 1 to 200 with some bookmakers. It's not a betting event. I think the interesting thing is, obviously, Angus was reminiscing about the time when San Marino. I remember working at the spread betting industry, and a guy bought £500 of the time of the first San Marino goal at 88 minutes to win £1,000 and done 40 odd grand.
Wow.
Fantastic bet that was. I bet he remembers his name as well, Angus. 75 to 1 San Marino, 66 to 1 the draw. I think the handicap market would be around about 3.5 goals, 4 goals. I think England will comfortably do that. And if you fancy history repeating himself, San Marino 18 to 1 to score first. I don't think it's going to happen again.
Okay. Correct score-wise, I mean, I guess this is a bit of a minefield in this kind of game. But having said that, if you do get it on the button, you're going to have a decent price, I would imagine.
Well, I would say like 6-0 would probably be about 7 to 2, 4 to 1.
Yeah.
So again, I would say anything to nil, and I would start at maybe 5, 6, 7.
It shows you, though, doesn't it, Angus, that story that Nigel just told us, that the perils sometimes of spread betting, or betting, don't ever bet what you can't afford to lose.
Absolutely. I mean, that would be the classic example, and I can remember it very well. People would think, well, they can't possibly even score.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the first minute.
As Brian Clough said, it only takes a second to score a goal. Correct score-wise, I mean, is it worth taking a... I don't really want to play at 7 to 2 for 6-0. Where can I get a double-figure price, Nigel? What sort of a scoreline would I have to go with, 10-0 or 1-0?
You can get a treble-figure price. You want to back San Marino 1-0. If you want a treble-figure price, we'll give you one, but it's not going to happen. 500 to 1, that is. We'll give you that, Trev. If you want it. This is the favourite. 5-0 is the favourite at 9 to 2. And that should suggest where the market's going to be on the handicap. I would anticipate the market being about 4.5 goals start for England. If it's 11 to 2, 4-0, and 5-0 was 9 to 2, around about 4 goals, 4.5 goals. I personally think you're better off just to back England to cover the spread or not to cover the spread, rather than actually pick a scoreline. If England don't win 4 or 5-0, it'll be a disappointing result for them. 6-0 is a 5 to 1 shot, but realistically, how could you go into a betting shop or online on your tablet and have 10 quid on England to win 6-0 at 5 to 1? I'll be feeling like, I've to give them no value. I can't back a team to score 6 goals at 5 to 1.
What about 25 to 1 for England to win 10-0, Nigel? What about that?
I wouldn't do it. I mean, I just don't think England got the goals in them. I think they will win. I'd just rather back the 4.5, whatever the handicap is. I think England are going to win it by a lot. I'm just not going to go for the greedy 25 to 1 shot. I'm just going to cheer in on goals on the handicap. That'd be my play.
All right, Nigel. Thanks very much for everything this evening. Gents, thank you very much indeed for your company. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back next weekend and we'll do it all over again. From all 4 of us for now. Bye-bye.